G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
Kay Lee and Robert, thank you for making the time to catch up. I think there'll definitely be some insights out of this podcast that will resonate with some of our audience. I guess to begin with, I'll throw it over to you guys to give a little bit of an introduction into who you are and what you do. Tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Rob. We're really excited about this, and it's right up our alley. The theme of your podcast is exactly what we do. So, Robert and Kay Lee, we're here in California, United States, of course, and what we do, we're business consultants, but we kind of have a unique niche. We help small businesses scale and grow, but to get the freedom they've desired, because kind of the interesting niche we fall into is helping married entrepreneurs do this. So according to the Kauffman Foundation here, that about 71% of business owners are married. And what we found in small business, even us growing up in a small business family, is that so much time and energy is focused on the business that the marriage and the family kind of get the backseat. And so it affects the relationship. So the stress that's going on in the business is being carried home. And no matter how you try to compartmentalize it, you can't, especially when things aren't going well in the business. And so what we help them do is kind of twofold, is help them scale and grow the business, but do it in a healthy way to make sure along the way you're prioritizing what you prioritize, what you want to prioritize, which is your free time, your personal life, and if you're married, your marriage, and then your family, you got kids, that sort of thing. Yeah,
fantastic. And absolutely, from my experience working with small business owners, you're exactly right. People do bring home a lot of the stresses from the day-to-day of running a business, and it can be very very damaging to the rest of their lives. So it sounds like a great service that you provide. So tell me, who are the typical clients that you work with, and perhaps more of interest, what is it that triggers them to reach out to you guys? Like, why do they come, and why are they looking for help?
Well, I think a lot of times people are sick and tired of being tired. You know, we grow and we get to a point and we can't get over the wall or get around the wall. And our go to is just put more time into it. And statistics show that just putting more time and hours in does not mean you're going to grow your business.
Yeah. So the typical clients that we get so far is husband and wife teams, especially because, how we promote ourselves, that these husband and wife teams feel it probably more than any other married entrepreneur. So there's most business owners are married, but only a fraction of them are actually husband and wife teams where they actually physically work in the business. And when they're especially working in the business together, then there's the teamwork dynamic, right? There's more opportunity for conflict. And then the lines get blurred even further between business and home. So even when they're home, they're talking about business or thinking about business, and it's just all consuming. And one of the things they want is figure out how to draw the line, how to create those healthy boundaries between business and home. And then how do we work better together? And then, of course, how do we grow the business? Because all these, the first two things I pointed out are the things that are actually keeping them stuck in from growing the business.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So how do you do that? Like, what's the process that you would take your clients through when they come to you? Is it the same for every client, or do you vary the way you work with clients?
Well, the beginning is always the same, right? We want to assess what's going on. And so we give them through some questionnaires, some assessments as far as, their personality and communication styles, to their work-life balance scores, to how they work well together as a team. And then, of course, in the business, we analyze their financial statements and look if their margins are healthy or not, what they're doing operationally and even marketing, to see what are the gaps, what are the inefficiencies in your business that is causing you to make up for the inefficiencies by just putting more time in. So the average business owners, fortunately, both of us have a business degree, And 30 years of my career was in Fortune 500 companies working in marketing and sales. So between the education standpoint to just the work experience standpoint, we just kind of know what good looks like. And then when we started consulting small business, we just saw a lot of inefficiencies. It wasn't just a marketing issue; it was more just an inefficient way of doing business. And so when you don't know what good looks like, then what you do is you put more time in it to overcome those inefficiencies. And so when we fix those things, then all of a sudden we can fix all these little areas in your life to have better work-life balance and have a business that can actually scale, but actually it can grow beyond the business owner's capacity.
And sometimes it doesn't take much. It's just a few little numbers here and there in different places, and they all add up that people aren't keeping track of.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, do you find there are some common areas that most of your clients are struggling in, or are they always different?
There's some common ones for sure. So, when you just look at the overall work-life balance issue, it's just knowing how to prioritize each other regardless of how busy things can get. So the common excuse of why we can't prioritize our marriage and our family is because we don't have time. The reality is we have some time. We're going to be home at some point, right? But how do you use that time? Are you thinking and answering texts, and are you thinking about business even when you're not doing anything? And so when you're even talking to kids or with your spouse, are you even mentally present, or are you still thinking about business? So just those practical elements of being present when you're home will allow you to have better quality time at home. And then in the business stuff, again, it's the inefficiency stuff, and it always starts with profit margins. In the business, the most common issue with the typical small business owner is working on too low of margins. And so when you work on low margins, that means you have to work harder, sell more volume to overcome that, right? So we start with pricing issues and cost issues and productivity issues. So that's one thing, the first thing we started out from the business side is price, because most business owners are so afraid of losing customers, they keep their prices arbitrarily too low, which means they're working on lower margins than they need to. When the reality is that, especially worldwide, right? Inflation's worldwide. I mean, people are just used to paying higher prices. So if you're not raising prices now, I mean, when's a better time to do that? When you have to. So things like that. So just looking at the margins, and then from there, we figure out what to fix to be able to increase those margins, whether it's operationally or marketing or just pricing.
I mean, some people say, oh, we haven't raised our prices in 10 years. I'm like, well, the way inflation's going, oh my gosh, it's like you're so far behind, and then you have to raise your prices like so much just to catch up, and I know like some of our clients raised their prices like by 10%, and that really made a big difference in their margins.
Do you find it difficult to define and execute a clear strategy for your small business? Does your team support your strategy? You know you are ready to create the right environment to boost your team's performance. Our 90-day business transformation program is designed for small business owners like you, with 5 to 30 team members who are ready for growth. Every day you'll receive a short email with a handful of growth actions. You'll invest 30 minutes each week in your one-on-one coaching session, tackling your specific growth challenges with one of our experienced growth guides, business owners themselves. Boost your confidence, your team's performance, and grow your small business with ease with our business transformation program at growsmallbusiness.com.
And look, I must say, I guess my experience working with business owners is that pricing is usually the number one lever to improve profitability.
Oh, yeah, because it's right away. As soon as you institute a new price, it hits the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's massive. So tell me a little bit, I mean, do you have a case study you could tell us a bit about that might bring to life the way you work with clients?
Yeah, one good one, it's relatively recent, the last couple of years, was probably the most dramatic one. Was it was a husband-wife team, and they lost $800,000 the year prior when they hired us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they wanted us, based on my marketing experience, they said, we need more sales. That's the typical answer for most small business owners. We need more sales. And I'm looking at this thing going, well, you did $5 million in revenue last year, And we have clients that do half that or a fraction of that, but they're still profitable. So I don't think you have a sales issue. I think you have a profit issue. And so we looked at, based on how they were working, how efficient were they with how they were working, and we saw that they were doing a lot of things that were not in their skill set. They were wearing too many hats, and they have a team, and so they're wearing too many hats, and they had their fingers and hands in too many things. So we said, no, this is, we kind of do a skills assessment, right? This is where you're great at, and this is where you got to focus 70% of your time in this area, whether it's research and development for the husband, or whether it's more in the operational side and really building systems and processes that she was good at, but she was so busy at everything else, she wasn't getting to that. Right? And that would create efficiencies in the business. So just from a labor standpoint, just for the owners, that was what we focused on. And in the business, we just, like we said before, we just audited everything that was going on in the business, from the financial statements to what was going on operationally to marketing, and created KPIs, right? Comparative metrics to all these different activities, and say, if we just improve the performance, all these little areas, just even by a fraction of a point in all these areas, we're going to get the improvement that we need. And so it wasn't one thing. It wasn't one sales or one big marketing campaign or whatever. It was just a series of small changes. And of course, focusing the owners and also with the team to make sure they're focused on the things that will drive results for the organization, not get caught up in the other busy work. So it was just like the organization was just too much of a mess. Everybody was doing a lot of different things. So just organizing to even the team to what they're really good at really helped drive increased performance. Right? And then in a year, we got from losing 800,000 to we just squeaked into the black. We wanted to, like, our goal for the year was, if we can break even, that would be a miracle. But we were looking at about even a 5% loss would be also really strong. But we ended up the year a little into the black. And the funny thing is, this is kind of how a lot of business owners, why we're always so focused on the top line and not the bottom line. And talking to the CFO in February, we said, okay, the final numbers in, how do we do? And he's like, oh, we got into the black. It's like, oh, that's amazing. So that's a miracle, right? I mean, and then she's like, yeah, but the team was a little disappointed because we missed our sales goal.
Right.
So think about that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and he's got this sour look, right? I'm looking at him like, do you hear what you're saying? Like, I don't care. I'll take profit over revenue any day, right? But so that was a great dramatic, but that's also how we work. It's just like looking for the answers are always within, but it's usually just a series of small changes. And we just got to know what's going on in the business. And once we do that, then we can fix things.
So I guess in that example, was there a work-life balance issue as well? Or and that was, I mean, you touched on, I guess, prioritization. Were there any really big levers in that regard?
That they're wearing so many different hats and running so many different directions that they were putting so much time into, and they weren't being very productive.
Got it.
Yeah. So because they're wearing so many hats, they just put in more hours. And instead of not just them, but even the team, once we got everybody kind of in the right seat, focusing on the right type of business activities, then all of a sudden the productivity level went up without you having to put more time in. It was just a mess, right? Just labor-wise, it was just a mess, and everybody just had their hands in everything. So once we kind of got organized and put everybody into their skill set, in the right skill set, then they didn't have to put more time in. It actually created just such relief amongst the organization, because now things were getting done because people were able to focus the right amount of time in the right activities.
Because if you're doing something you're not good at, we're usually not very productive and we're not happy.
Yeah, so the owners were working sometimes weekends because they're trying to fill the gap just because of the inefficiencies in the labor.
Got it. Yeah, no, we definitely see that a bit. So tell me, if there was one thing that you would recommend business owners take away from this conversation, if anything's resonated for them, what might that one thing be?
I'd say for us, we meet weekly on Monday at 3:30. We have, we talk about, we give each other an encouraging word. We talk about our calendars, sync them up, what it's going to look like. If Robert's going to be doing a lot of traveling for the next 2 weeks, I like to know what the expectations are. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to find out the last minute, he's going to be gone, because then we'll plan like a date night in there. We'll talk about our personal finances, our business finances, what we have coming down the pipeline, because then that eases my my mind knowing what's coming up, and whatever things we talk about.
Yeah, so I mean, just being husband-wife teams, or just even if you're not working together, just getting on the same page and know what's going on. So even if you're hitting a busy stretch, you can at least plan for it, and then plan for a fun activity afterwards, or even try to say, what can we do even in the midst of this 1 month long stretch? What can we do in the meantime to just stay connected? And that's also good just even for the team, just in the business itself, is making sure the team is on the same page and knowing what's coming up instead of just throwing stuff at people. And for me, the one thing I think as a business owners, how to be more efficient with your time, it's do an audit of all the things that you're doing in the business, all the hats that you're wearing, and look at all that and say, what are the 2 or 3 business activities that are more in your sweet spot, that you're really excellent work in, and it really gives you life. There's a book out called The Genius Zone by Gay Hendricks, talks about the zone of genius. And so that's a similar thing, right? 70% of your time should be focused on the work that you're really good at, excellent at, but it also gives you life, which means it's most likely going to be more productive.
Yeah.
But the problem is, for most business owners, they only spend maybe 30% of their time in that area. And 60, 70% of the time in all the busy work, that's not that productive, but it just has to be done. So with the rest of those activities that are not in your zone of genius, per se, figure out how you can automate, delegate, or eliminate some of those things. So, we're in a world of technology now. There's a lot of technology that we can, grasp onto that will at least streamline and make things a little bit quicker. Or delegation part, most likely, even if a team of 5 people, there's most likely there are team members that are probably better at some of the tasks that you're already doing. That's not in your zone of genius. So why not give it them and empower them to take on a little bit more responsibility, and then eliminate what are the things you need to say no to, whether it's permanently or temporarily, so you can get focus on the work that needs to get done.
Yeah.
Because the priority work is the stuff that usually we kick down the can because we deal with the immediate issue. The priority work is usually more long-term stuff that doesn't bring an immediate return, but it will bring long-term return. So like whether it's research and development, going out, get big contracts, those things take time. But it's also the thing that leads to long-term growth. But those are things that are too easy to just push aside to take care of the customer service issues or whatever employee issues that are going on, right? The things we feel we need to deal with now that maybe so, but maybe you're not the person to deal with it.
Mm. Yeah. I think that's great advice. So if this conversation has resonated for our audience, how do they find out a bit more about you? Where's the best place to go?
Well, starting on our website, marriedentrepreneur.co. And so certainly the resources we have there are not just for married couples, but we have a lot of business resources, like even our podcast, Thriving in Tandem. And we've got there's a free download in there too for work-life balance, which goes into the business issues, some of the stuff we just talked about. How do you evaluate the things that are keeping you too busy to really scale and grow in a healthy way?
And then we also have our book, Tandem, The Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance.
Excellent. No, that sounds great. I can see a copy in the background there. Definitely one I'll have to get a copy of. Well, Kay Lee and Robert, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insights. And, as I said, I think there's a lot for really any business owner to take away from this conversation. But, but particularly where you've got couples in a business, it's does raise a different set of challenges. So really appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Rob, for having us. That's great.
Thank you. Want to help other small business owners improve their business? There's one quick thing you can do, which is jump over to iTunes and leave a review. Or if you don't have an account, follow us on Spotify.